just started laughing.
Welcome to the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Ben, and today's guest is
Hollow,
like.
the tree.
What's your last name?
Oh, Cobos, Hollow Cobos, coming
Goodness.
to you from Santa Ana,
Santa Ana.
California.
It's the first time he's ever been here.
Ever.
He stays in South County Bubble,
Yeah,
and so he was kind of culture shock today.
was a little scared.
This is the only reason I come up there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I drive here once in a while just to remind myself that I'm alive. So just to keep the blood flowing. So.
Oh my gosh. Dude, we're stoked to have you. Jordan and I have been friends with Hollow for a little while. I've known Hollow for a long time just through coming into Hidden House, and it's cool, man. Like all of our guests are obviously, for right now, relational driven.
Yeah.
And so we're getting to bring in, people that Jordan and I know in actual life.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we're going to get guests that we don't know, but for right now, I always love this type of setting because you're sitting in a room with people that you know, but in a setting like this and with conversation pieces like this, I'm probably going to learn something today about you that I've never known.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's such a cool thing, right?
Oh yeah, always. I mean, we're just getting to know you and your wife and your family, and right off the bat, I tell Caitlin all the time, I'm like, man, Hollow and Grace are like two of my favorite people I've ever met. Like
we laugh a lot.
You guys are funny. You're genuine, and you're just good, like salt of the earth type people, which is awesome. You don't find that very often, so I'm excited.
Without trying.
Thank you.
Without trying. Yeah, no, that's just naturally that's how you guys are, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Hollow, for people that don't know you, you can go in depth as you want, as shallow as you want. You're kind of shallow, so it makes sense.
I'm a
But
shallow guy.
just
Shallow Hollow.
give us a little background about you, who you are, where you come from, what's
Yeah.
led you to sit right here.
Yeah. Well, my name's Hollow. That's pretty much it. Let's wrap this up. No, name's Hollow. Been married for 9 years as of last week.
Okay.
Wow.
Congratulations. I didn't know that.
Yeah, 9 years. Just celebrated. Got two beautiful kids. A 5-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son that is constantly walking around the house with a Darth Vader mask right now. So we're in that phase. But my wife and I run our own business. We do wedding photography. Been doing that for 9 years as well. We started it the year we got married. So coming up on 9 years, I should say. Originally from L.A. Grew up in L.A., Los Angeles. So, I'm pretty gangster. But moved to Diamond Bar when I was like 6 years old. And then South County kind of pulled me in for a job opportunity. Worked at a church for almost 7 years, and then things opened up with our photography. It was kind of a side hustle, and it ended up becoming our full-time gig 5 years ago now, and we've been doing this 5 years now since we've had our daughter. Our daughter was, she was about a year old, I think. Yeah, about a year old when we went full-time, and it's just opened the door for, going off Good Dude, Good Dad, it's opened the door for me to be a better dad. I remember working a 9 to 5 and waking up, leaving by 6:45, and my daughter would wake up at 7. I'm like, all right, well, kiss her goodbye. And then I'd get home by like 6 p.m. and then she'd go to bed at 6:30.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I'm a good dad for 30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And that kind of was the drive for going into our business full time, because I was like, you know what? I just want to be a better dad. I want to pour into my family. And that's really what inspired us to really grow our brand, grow our business, and do it full time so I could be a better dad.
That's cool. See, I also, that's why I was saying I'm going to learn something. I didn't know that's why you started it. I thought it was honestly you leaving your current job.
That too.
But
getting fired helps.
I didn't say that definitely helps. I wasn't going to say it. I'm glad you said it.
That's right.
I think something that's a cool perspective is I didn't know that not a cool perspective, I don't know why I just said that, but I didn't know you left Diamond Bar to come to the church. So that's what brought you here.
Yeah. I don't surf. I kind of like the ocean. I don't like sand like you.
As we
I don't
found
like
out,
sand
I don't.
either.
Yeah, I'm not a sand guy. It just gets in places that it shouldn't be. And so if it shouldn't be there, I shouldn't be there. So that's kind of how I look at sand. But I did just buy a wetsuit. So, you know what? I'm committed after 12 years of living in South County to become a surfer.
for
But
you.
Chee-hoo.
yeah, lived there, and the job opportunity opened up, and slowly made my way to Orange County, and did not see myself as an Orange County guy. Like, I was inland till death kind of
Which
guy.
is so funny because when I met you, you were the epitome of little hipster Orange County guy. Like, you look like you belonged in Portland.
Yeah, I wore a vest with a T-shirt,
And he had the
Oh.
little beanie always rolled up that he still wears all the time.
which I invented.
You rock
The
that,
ears
though.
out. No one did that before. The reason I do the ears out is I have giant ears. So one, they're very heat management. If you can't tell, I'm like 114 degrees right now.
It's hot.
Because of these headphones.
Yeah.
My ears need to breathe. They're like vents on a hard drive, you know, the
Yeah.
little like slats. And so, yeah, I invented the ears out. I like to claim that.
That's so funny.
It was out of necessity.
Just naturally thought you were an Orange County hipster kid.
Yeah, no.
You would come into the coffee shop
Yep.
with your beanie on, your rolled up jeans, your flannels,
Yep.
and then you had like a bazillion followers when Instagram wasn't big.
Yeah.
And you were a photographer. I was like,
It was easy
hipster.
back then.
Yeah, but
Instagram, you post a picture, a square picture, and you get likes. That was it. There was no like statistics or analytics behind anything.
It was just there.
It was just there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was magical.
Most
time.
people were still on Facebook.
Yeah,
well, dude, I remember.
I thought the transition forever.
Dude,
Yeah.
I remember seeing
I'm
him
still on MySpace.
with the with a big following back then, and I was like, dude, like my business has like 100 followers, and this guy's got like thousands. I was like, how the heck do you do that?
Yeah.
And yeah, I just was. That's a very weird time.
What made you guys choose photography? Like, did you guys have a background in that, or is that
Yeah. This is fun.
okay?
So my dad, I grew up in a very artistic family on my dad's side. Like, he comes from a family of 7 kids. All of them can paint, like oil paintings, like giant wall murals. My cousin owns a business where he does wall murals in home for like celebrities, and like
Whoa,
just like,
no way.
you want a Lion King room, Mufasa. You know, it's like, it's done. And I can't draw for beans. My dad worked for 33 years for Disney as an Imagineer, like designed countless theme attractions at Disneyland, overseas. And like, he could just get a napkin and draw, and like, here's a building, and you're like, wow. And then I get there, I'm like, I got a stick figure, Dad. And my brother's an architect. You know, it's just, it runs in the family, and I walk in the family. And so I think my artistic release at the time was like, okay, I could press buttons. That's good. So I learned on film because I'm old. And then digital came around, and life was like, gotcha, sucker, because I'm colorblind. And with photos, you have to color them now. It's no longer just relying on the film to do the beauty, but it's now dragging sliders and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh man, I can't even do this now. But I did it anyway. And so my photos were always a little extra colorful just because I see a little different. But it was just an artistic release to, you know, get out there, and it was a hobby on the side. And I would do family, friends, portraits, and that was always the critique. People would be like, hey, like, I like the photos, but my skin looks like Oompa Loompa orange. And to me, that just looked normal. But to everyone else, it looked bad. So I met my wife, and she actually slid into my DMs.
Oh,
Yeah.
All of this makes so much sense.
Oh
now.
yeah, I know, right?
Dang.
You guys look at each other.
Yeah.
There's backstory. Yeah, so she slid into my DMs, totally harmless. She was just like, hey, how do you have so many followers? How do you take pictures? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, let me show you. And so I kind of told her about photography and all this stuff. And so once we got married, she was like, hey, why don't we do weddings? I'm like, well, because I'm colorblind. She's like, yeah, but I'm not. I was like, oh, gosh, you're right. And so we did a wedding for a buddy, paid us like $300 for a 12-hour day.
Oh man.
But we were stoked. And she edited the whole thing on her phone because we didn't even have Lightroom yet.
Wow.
And so she did it on Visco,
Dang.
which is wild.
Yeah.
No way.
And yeah, this is a long time ago. So she's like, you know, it took her like 3 weeks to do because you'd have to load one photo at a time, edit, export, and then airdrop it to the computer. And it was wild. We gave them like 600 photos.
Wow.
So after that wedding, we made a website. And within the first year, we ended up getting 10 weddings. And I knew Lightroom. I can't use Lightroom, if that makes sense. I know exactly what the things do, but the outcome is different because of my colorblindness. So kind of taught her the basics. She learned and just like started killing it. People were like, wow, like your style's amazing. And so that first year we got 10 weddings. The second year we got 23 weddings. The third year, 36. And that's kind of where we top off. We do about 36 to 45 weddings a year now. And it all started from it just being a hobby. And yeah, so she is my better half. I tell everybody, because without, she is my eyes.
She's the color to your life.
She is the, wow, that's beautiful.
Dang.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go home and tell her that.
I know.
Baby 3.
Baby. We're done. We're done. Yeah.
That's so cool.
So yeah. So hobby turned into job.
So how did you end up building that like initial following behind Instagram? Like, was it literally you were just posting pictures regularly? Did you have some sort of algorithm in your head before there was like a legitimate algorithm? How did you do that?
I just remember those were the follow for follow days.
Oh yeah.
And you would like follow someone and then they'd follow you back. It was normal. It wasn't such a currency where we're kind of scared to give those follows now. And unless, it's someone really worth it. I'm really entertained, so I'm going to follow you. So you'd like follow and follow back. And it just, I have 1,000 followers. I'm following 1,000 people. But then it started to grow a little bit. Me and my buddy, who's in Colorado now, he was a outdoor photographer. And so we started just going around the area and shooting. And so it started to grow little by little, just from being on the platform, engaging with people. It was so simple back then. You would post, engage, comment on someone else's photo. They'd follow back. And so it grew. I forget how many followers we had at one point, but it's funny because I'm not even on Instagram anymore. So I haven't been on Instagram in 2 years. My personal Instagram is down. My wife runs it all. So she does our Hollow and Grace Instagram. And so I don't know what's going on in the Instagram world anymore.
That's got to be so refreshing.
It really is, because I know when I go on, in the sense of like my wife's like showing me some reels or like inspo before a wedding, and I'm looking, I'm like, man, just 5 minutes of being on this, I start to compare myself.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm like, are we even doing the right thing? And I mean, we're booked out for the year and we're booking into next year. And that should be like my focus point of, are we doing okay? But I could let 10 minutes of social media just like ruin my day.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's a curse and a blessing, social media, but I'm blessed to be off of it. And I put the curse on my wife. Yeah. So, now that I said this out loud.
She's the color of your life and you put the curse.
Yeah.
on
She's
your
done
life.
so much for me. I'm just going to. Yeah.
Let's before we kind of shift gears a little bit, I want you to talk specifically on the struggles that you faced leaving the comfort of a 9-to-5 security component to your own while getting married.
Yeah. Yeah, that was wild. So when I first got hired at the job I was working at, I remember it being like the best thing, because I had only worked at a couple other jobs, just like 9-to-5 basic. I actually worked at Apple. That was cool. But this was my first like man job. Like, wow, I have like a schedule, a set schedule. I have benefits. I thought I was making a ton of money. It's like, wow, I make this much money. And I was all stoked on it. And then, moved to Orange County. I was like, wow, rent is double. But kind of navigating, I mean, I was young, didn't know what I was doing. I'd only lived on my own in my own place for about 8 months. And so I remember just navigating, kind of being a grown-up at 23, 24 years old, kind of late to the game, I guess. But, just figuring out like bills, life. And these are things my parents taught me, but when it's actually like your own and you're not on your parents' check, like, oh, this is how you write a check. For all you millennials, we know how to write checks still. So, but yeah, just navigating that, learning, how to be a grown-up. And then the biggest growth I had was when I left the job I was at to do our full-time business, because one, it was this giant kick of faith. I tell everybody, it wasn't a step of faith because I had to get kicked into it, but still trusting, God and what he's going to do in our life. But it was 3 months before COVID. And so we're like, all right, let's do this. We're full time. And I remember posting like, we get to work from home. And then 3 months later, everyone's like,
so does everyone else.
And the cool factor died. Like, okay, everyone works from home. And I just remember having our first cancellation. and the person was a lawyer, and he demanded all his money back. Didn't want to like leave the deposit with us, even though we had already done like an engagement shoot for them. He's like, no, I want 100% of it back. And I'm like, I had to put my big boy shoes on for the first time as like a business owner and say like, no, this is what the contract says. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to take you to court. And I just remember freaking out like, all right, this is the first cancellation and everything shutting down. I was like, we're going to go deep into a financial hole. We're going to get lost. And I just remember having to step up, one, in my faith, and two, just as a provider and as a man, you know, and it really stretched me into really being the provider for my home, because before the checks came regularly, you know, every 2 weeks you got that check, every 2 weeks you got that payment. And all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, when I stop working, the money stops coming in. And when the money stops coming in, the landlord's not happy and my kids need food. And it was honestly, though, the best time, because I feel like COVID really set us up to be the hardest worker we could be for the future. So everything after that, people are like, what do you do in the slow season? I'm like, dude, we made it through COVID. Like, we made it through a slow year. So when it's a 3-month period, it really helped me adapt to the ebbs and flows of business. I don't even remember your initial question, but
it was struggles.
That's my answer.
No, that was really good.
What did you do when you said you put your big boy shoes on with that lawyer wanting his money back? What would you do, or what did you do?
I gave him his money.
Oh, you did.
So this is actually one of those like humbling moments. I had to have these really difficult conversations, and I was like, look, here's what the contract says. He's like, I'm gonna take you to court, small claims. And then his like future mother-in-law called. She's like, I'm gonna take you to court as well. And I remember just having these conversations, which are always difficult. I hate confrontation. Like, it's my least favorite thing, but it's something you have to deal with in life and running your own business.
Yeah.
And I remember saying like, hey, here's what was provided. I'm going to give you this back, but I am going to keep the cost of an engagement shoot because I provided you a service. And it was I remember just like trembling on the phone because I'm like, dude, I don't want to do this. I don't think I'm a yes person, but I have those tendencies in certain situations. And I just laid it out like, look, we gave you the services. You were 100% happy with the outcome. And I remember getting a call back. He's like, I'll call you later, and hung up. And I got the call back, and they're like, all right, we're going to pay for the engagement shoot. And the whole situation flipped. They were really grateful after. I think it was just the height. They lost their deposit at their venue. Like, they were losing a ton of money.
Right.
So they were trying to get as much money back as they could. But it really, it also, one, it changed our contracts for future, where we lay everything out much clearer. But at the same time, we want to be that fair business. So now going on, anytime there's, we always say if COVID-20 happens, if that's a thing, you get your refund or your deposit minus the services given. So if we give you an engagement shoot, hey, we're going to charge you an engagement shoot, but we want to give you that back. And it's kind of a scary thing because I'm like, man, what if 20 people cancel? Legally, we have to. But I feel like that just, it sets us apart as being a company that cares, even though we're small. It might not be the wisest financial decision should something like that happen, but I'd rather have our name than a few bucks in the bank account at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so,
well, that's ethical. That's an ethic question and characteristic. Not that attorney sounds like a chump, to be honest.
Larry H. Parker.
Perfect.
That was his name.
And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but it's like people like that are so used to being able to trample on that small business, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's ethical. You did provide a service. Good for you for standing up for yourself, because if it was me, like, I would do the same thing, right? And there's no way. I would rather go to court because of the principle and stand on that versus be like, oh no, here you go.
Yeah.
Like, heck no, that will never happen. And the fact that people think that's okay drives me nuts.
That's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
I mean, once you accept, I feel like as a business owner, like once you accept that one time, it's quick to repeat that same process.
Yeah.
And I've had something similar happen. And there comes a certain point you'd be like, no, I provided you, because then it's knowing your worth too, right? Like, you have to know your value, because I once heard no one's going to value you more than you value yourself. So you have to value yourself.
Well, that conversation would have been so drastically different if you didn't provide a service, right?
Yeah. Oh,
He
Oh,
could have
yeah.
approached that so differently. And I'm glad that it ended up being a good situation.
Yeah.
And in his defense, yeah, the world was falling apart and people were freaking out. But
Yeah.
that also shows kind of your true character.
Oh,
And
100%.
you know, I think what you said is I would rather our name be known than a couple bucks.
Yeah.
When you provide something, you deserve to get something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very simple. But we live in a time where it has become not so simple.
Yeah.
Everyone wants a seat at the table for every single decision. And it's like, well, are
not how
you
it
going
always
to help
works.
buy that table?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to help fix that leg when it falls?
Yeah.
Are you going to help re-sand that table when the time comes?
Right.
So yeah, you can have a seat, but you also need to get all of that other stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of you for handling that way.
Thank you.
That's good for
Thank
you.
So I have a question. So like for you guys in your business, you know, let's say, what do you guys want to be known for in the end in your business? Is it going to be like, what's the legacy you want to leave with your photography business?
Ooh, that's a great question. Our legacy. I mean, I would say our biggest thing is being a part of your wedding in a day that's enjoyable. I mean, you know, I wouldn't say there's this legacy that, you know, screams because it is a photography business. I'm not going to paint it like, you know, oh, when we feed the orphans, you know.
Yeah,
But
like what impression do you want to leave
yeah,
as a business?
I think the most important thing when we're talking to our couples, and we always joke about like, hey, it comes with this free advice, is we're a married couple too. And so we have so much fun with our couples. And that's really our biggest thing when we talk to people. And it's almost like this sigh of relief that's given. They're like, man, I've talked to so many photographers that are all business. And you guys, I just feel like I'm hanging out with another couple. And we tell everybody, and this is, you'll find this other places, but we stole it. You know, we're not vendors, we're frienders. And we love being in the wedding industry and making these friendships. And really not being someone you hired, but a friend that you, you know, begot, I would say. And so half of our clients, if not more, they've transitioned from client to friend. And we're still doing, you know, family photos where we did someone's wedding, you know, 9 years ago. And now we're doing their family photo with the 3 kids they have every year, every Christmas. And so going past just being a business where we provide a service, but really being, you know, that friend that takes your money. Yeah, that's no, but starting friendships and being more personable as opposed to just like, hey, you got your service, now it ends. Like we follow up with our couples, you know, and again, like we just did a maternity session for a wedding we did during COVID. And so I would just say being those photographers that surpass photography and are there to be there for our couples and our clients. So
That was an awesome answer.
Yeah.
I like that.
I feel like you guys are creating, like, and it sounds cheesy, but you're creating memories and impressions that last forever.
yeah,
And I think for me on the outside looking in, obviously we didn't use you guys for our wedding.
Yeah,
I didn't
thanks,
really
man.
know you that much back then. I knew you as like the hipster dude. So
it was the vest. I know.
yeah. But through that, I think what I've noticed and just hearing how you guys conduct yourselves outside of your business is truly how you conduct yourselves in your business.
Mm.
And so I think that's something as like an encouragement to you guys. You genuinely can tell that you guys value people versus like the service and or money that you're getting
Yeah.
in return. And I think it's super cool. It's why I refer you guys all the time to people. And I don't know, it's just really refreshing. You are genuinely becoming a part of their life, and you guys make that so easy. And it's a good thing. It's an awesome thing that you guys have been able to accomplish.
Yeah.
So don't let go of that.
Yeah, it's wild. It's we wake up every day, and you hit the alarm because you wake up early. There's that quote. Do what you love, and you'll never work another day. Or however it goes, and that's such a lie. You're gonna love what you do, but man, you're gonna work 24/7.
Yeah.
And you hit that alarm. It went off this morning. My Apple Watch. I've been using my Apple Watch to wake me up because our daughter jumps in our bed every night, and when the alarm goes off, it wakes her up. So it gently taps me. So I try and sneak out. And it was 6:15 this morning, and ended up getting out of bed at 6:45, heading over to Hidden House to get some work done. And man, it just it doesn't stop. The work doesn't stop, but it's such a joy waking up and being like, man, I'm doing what I love. It's hard, but I get to do it. and this is what I get to do for, I mean, not the rest of my life because no one hires 80-year-old photographers, but you know, I get to do it for a while, and it's been such a blessing to see what's come out of it. So
Yeah. No, that's super cool.
You guys are traveling photographers, right? You do a lot of
That too.
traveling for the wedding.
yeah.
How one, I mean, I know the answer, but do you guys take your kids with you? And two, how is that experience when you guys are traveling with your kids? And do you have any like great moments from that or what?
Oh yeah, it's 50-50. So we try and bring them on, you know, let's say we have 4 trips planned for the year. We'll bring them on 2, and then we'll spend 2 as like a getaway. So we're going to Mexico twice this year. Once to Cabo and once to Playa de Carmen. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Cancun. And so one of those, we're like, okay, let's bring the kids for one, and then we'll leave the kids for the other. We ended up scratching that idea. We're leaving the kids for both because we're just going to enjoy Mexico, and we're going to rage with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we bring them for some of them we leave them. Like we've gone to Yosemite, you know, countless times for weddings. We bring them there. Washington, we brought them up to Washington. New York, we got them to New York with us. We got to go to England 2 years ago. We left them for that one. We're like, dude, we just don't want to deal with a 12-hour flight and a whatever time change. But it's so fun because we'll be at these weddings out of state. And people are like, oh, you left the kids? We're like, no, they're like at the Airbnb. And they're like, you brought your kids? And we're like, oh, yeah. Like our kids, I feel like kids get a bad rap where it's almost like they're a carry-on as opposed to a fellow traveler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And man, it's been so fun. Mind you, traveling with kids is stressful
It's
as heck.
insane. It's so stressful.
It's wild. We just flew Frontier. Shout out to Frontier for cheap flights. But also shout out to Frontier for horrible customer service. And we're traveling, and my daughter has this Minnie Mouse roller, and my son has a Mickey Mouse roller. And it's personal size, and we get to the airport, and everything goes fine. And on the return flight, the guy's like, you have to check that. I'm like, no, it's personal. He's like, it's a rolling suitcase. I'm like, it's a child suitcase.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to like set this example to my kids, but at the same time, just I'm in dad mode and like angry bear mode. And they're like, you have to put it in the little like thing that they measure, you know, the little box where you shove it in. And I'm like, look, it's my kid's suitcase. Like it has Minnie Mouse on it. It's not a full size carry on. He's like, nope, go do it. So I get it, put it in and show like it's a square, it fits. And she's like, has to go in. So I'm like, and I push it in. She's like, all the way. And it's sticking out, like, mind you, this much. And so I just like, not a good dad, good dude moment, good dude, good dad moment. This was angry dad, angry dude. And I just like shoved that thing in. And the lady's looking at me, and I'm just looking at her as I like shove this in. And in that very moment, you know, I heard your first podcast where you said, you know, you had that customer come in and you were wearing the hat, and you had that moment of like, oh gosh, like I can't respond in the way I want to right now because I'm setting this example. And I had this moment of like, okay, just calm down. You paid $200 for this flight. It's worth it. And so I pulled it out and walked away. I ended up jacking up my shoulder from shoving it in. That's how old I am. I'm like walking on the plane, and my kids are looking at me like, Daddy, what happened? I was like, nothing. Daddy makes mistakes from time to time.
Honestly, you're better than me. I would have stood my ground.
Oh,
It's something I'm working on.
Yeah.
I genuinely am.
I know.
But dude, there's a point though where when we allow things like that to constantly happen, those individuals as a broad category will constantly and forever always do it.
oh yeah.
And someone once has told me it's not your job to correct it. But sometimes it freaking is my job to correct it.
Dude.
Because if I don't, that same stinking person is going to keep doing that and bullying every other person.
Yeah.
So I will be the one. It
I'm
happened to
taking
us-
you next time.
I'll deal.
Yeah.
Gladly.
Sometimes, you know, you need to let things go and, you know, turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
And there's other times where you need to be the hammer of God.
Where you need to turn the right cheek.
Little throat punch Thursday,
Yep.
a reality check.
Well, dude, that happened to us at Disneyland during COVID. My daughter was like 3 or 2, whatever she was. And the dude wouldn't let her on. I think it was like It's a Small World or something. There's like no one there, just us. And the guy wouldn't let her on because she didn't have a mask on.
Oh yeah.
And whatever your stance is on masks, we're not going to go down that route. But the way he said it to my 2 or 3-year-old, I almost was probably on the news. I lost it. Devin gave me the look of, oh, please no.
Just
but
stop.
also, like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And even the people behind us were like, are you kidding me, dude? She's like a baby.
Yeah.
Like, leave her alone. The guy was just one of those, he's using his power for good. And I didn't drop it. We got on the ride. End of story. And then I looked at my daughter asked me, you guys know my daughter, she's very like intuitive, right? She asked me, she's like, Dad or Dada, what was that guy's problem with my mask? And I said, don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
And she's like, Dad, I fixed it. I was like, yes, I did.
Yeah.
And forever. And I'm saying that as I respect the fact when people can turn the other cheek like you did.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. It is something I'm working on. But to kind of follow up with what you just said, like, what do you, as yourself, think being a good dude and a good dad is in your daily life? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, going off that, I think in teaching our kids, it's important sometimes to just do it for them. There are moments like that, like, hey, Dad stepped in as protector.
Yeah.
You don't need to know the finer details of what went on, but I'm here to protect you. That is my number one role, is to protect you, to provide for you, to raise you up to be a good person. But there's moments like that, like, I think it's the coolest thing as a dad when your kid is like, Dad fixed it.
Yeah.
And your kids think the world of you. Like, I remember, I'm sure every son or daughter has said this to their parent at one point. Like, oh, my dad could do anything. My dad can fix anything. And there's times like that where something will go and let's say something breaks in the house. And my daughter has no issue with it. She's like, oh, Dad will fix it. And I'm like, that's right.
That's what my 2-year-old, Harper,
Yeah.
the youngest, that's her new phrase. Anytime, because my kids break stuff constantly.
Oh, yeah.
But Caitlin just laughs constantly. She's like, now anything in the house that's like not right or broken, she just goes, okay, Dad'll fix it.
That's
And
so
that's
cool.
just, and like, it is the law. Like, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, Dad'll fix it.
Yeah. But I think that's such a, going off that question, I think that's our jobs, like, to fix things, to fix what is broken. I'm going to go down the Christian route because that's what I am. We live in a fallen world. That's what I believe, that things are broken and that we serve a God that fixes things. And if we're made in his image, we are also to be those who fix things. And I think no matter the moment it's in, like, repair it, whether it's relationships, whether it's, family issues, whether it's raising your child, like, we're going to fix the things that are broken. And so there are moments we have to fix ourselves as dads. And I think that's a huge one. We're daily not beating ourselves up like, oh man, I failed again, but learning from it. Like when you change your oil for the first time, you make a mistake, the filter goes on crooked and all the oil comes out. You're like, oh man, I messed up. You don't just give up. You go, okay, let's redo this. And I think that's kind of where I am as a dad, where it's like, okay, I don't want to judge myself too harshly because I've never done this before. I'm a new dad every day because every day I'm confronted with a new situation where my daughter asks a new question. And you don't want to be the dad that just, oh, it is what it is. It's like, no, they want to know the answer. Our kids are like, we hear it all the time, they're sponges, and it's so true. The stuff they pick up and they repeat just constantly. My son right now, I don't even know, but he's calling everybody a chichi head, which if you're in the Spanish community, like I'm half Mexican, my wife's half Mexican. That means like boob head, So we're in Marshall's. And like he sees the little camera, the CCTV, and he's like pointing at himself. He's like, "Chi-chi head," and I'm surrounded by a Spanish community. I'm like, and I look totally white, so I'm here like, oh gosh, like this is just so bad. And I'm like, buddy, let's fix this right now. Don't say that. He's like, okay, I won't say that. Poo-poo head, and I'm like, oh gosh, like, yeah, it's just a learning, curve every day where you're like, how do I address this? How do I fix this? But I think that's the thing. We try and fix, but we move forward. And there's going to be times we fail. And just like that leaky faucet that you have to keep repairing regularly, that's fatherhood. You have to work on yourself. And in my case, I have an amazing wife who's there to help, where, it's not 50-50, it's 100-100. We're both putting our all into it, and she's helping us. She's helping me as a father grow and pointing out the times where maybe I'm a little too bear dad in the moment. She's like, okay, just tap into your softer side. I'm like, okay. And I'm a softie. I cry every day. I cry at every wedding, by the way. Like, I don't even know the people,
awesome.
but like when I see the daddy-daughter dance, I see my daughter's head on these brides.
Man.
I'm gonna lose that. Yeah.
And I weep like a baby. Or when Butterfly Kisses is the song. Butterfly Kisses.
1 out of 3 weddings.
Yeah. I'm just weeping in the corner. So,
Dude, I think you said the best thing that I've heard in a while is I'm a new dad every day.
yeah.
That phrase right there is powerful. Think about it. I'm a new dad every day.
Yeah.
And 2 dads, new dads, old dads, upcoming dads. Like, dude, that's good.
And giving yourself grace in that fact that you're a new dad every day.
Yeah.
I love this fact that you said that it's, with me and my wife, it's not 50-50, it's 100-100.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, if more people took, as a good dude or as a good dad, took that into marriage, because, we're in Orange County, the divorce rate's so high. But if you both came at marriage with that mentality, 100-100,
Right.
and giving yourself grace that you're a new husband every day, along with a new dad, that's
good.
yeah, that's powerful. I love that, man.
Yeah.
Dude, Hollow, you have dropped some very good knowledge on us. You are wise, probably the amount of years you've been on the earth.
27.
So
27
you're
years.
the oldest dude in this room.
Yeah.
So, my man, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy life. We both know how busy you are. We appreciate it. I'm going to keep saying it probably indefinitely, but our goal literally is just so people, like particularly men, have a space that we feel that it's okay to talk about this stuff. That we can sit together, have a coffee, have a beer, whatever it is, and build real life connections through the community of being like husbands and dads. And it all starts at home, and I would have never fully understood that until becoming a father and becoming a husband, right? And my wife didn't have a dad in her life growing up. She had her grandfather, she had her uncles, her dad was in and out. She has every excuse to have quote unquote daddy issues.
Yeah.
And I would have, again, never would have understood it until having her basically pull me aside once in a while in my good, my bad, my great moments, my bad moments, but just say, it's mind-blowing to me that our kids will never know what it's like to not be loved by their father.
Yeah.
And until that, I would have been like, dude, being a good dad's not that hard. But it really is a choice every day. So I think you shed some like really cool perspectives and things, and I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Where can people find you and your wife in your photography business?
You can find us at Hidden House Coffee in San Juan Capistrano, because I'm there every day. You could find us at Hollow and Grace, HOLLOW, because people always go hollow, like holy. Definitely not. I always tell them like Sleepy Hollow. HollowandGrace.com, at Hollow and Grace, everything Hollow and Grace. It's very simple.
And we'll put it in the comments and stuff like that too, or the description, whatever it's called.
Yeah. And we do everything. Family, maternity photos coming up.
They do our family photos.
I know. Yeah. It's not like I haven't wanted to use them.
Oh,
yeah. I told them we're too expensive.
yeah, that's true.
Ben keeps telling everybody you're too expensive.
Just
Driving your business away.
Anyways,
Don't go with him.
another
Thank you,
great
guys.
episode.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, be a good dude, be a good dad.
You like this music, huh?
I like it. This is so cool.